I got fired in front of 200 people while holding a champagne flute I couldn't afford. It was supposed to be an inauguration party for our new CEO, a night of celebration and new beginnings. Instead, she pointed at me, smiled for the cameras, and said into the microphone, "You're fired." 1 hour later, she was the one begging me not to destroy everything she'd just taken. My name is Monica Hill, and for the last 4 years, my whole life revolved around a company called humiliating. It wasn't a giant corporation or a flashy tech unicorn. We were a mid-sized marketing agency that specialized in brand launches for small businesses. When I started, I was just a nervous intern who still brought a packed lunch and apologized when people bumped into me, but I worked hard. Late nights, early mornings, canceled weekends. I was there for the ugly rebrands, the last-minute crises, the freaked-out clients. Eventually, I became head of brand strategy, which sounded way more glamorous than the reality. Me, a laptop, 10 cups of coffee, and a dozen open tabs. The old CEO, Richard Harris, was tough but fair. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself yet. When other people dismissed me as the young one, Richard listened to my crazy ideas and kept asking, "What do you think, Monica?" So when he announced he was retiring, I was sad, but I trusted him when he said, "You'll be in good hands. My daughter is taking over. She's driven. You two will get along." I had no idea how wrong he was. Her name was Victoria Harris. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect LinkedIn. You know the type. She swept into the office on her first informal visit in a white blazer and heels that clicked like a metronome of superiority. "Monica," she'd said, stretching out her hand, "I've heard so much about you." Her grip was firm. Her smile, professional, but her eyes, cold, measuring. I told myself I was imagining it. In the weeks leading up to her official start date, I was in the thick of planning her inauguration party, the big internal and press event where she'd give her first speech as CEO. Ironically, I made the mood boards, approved the floral arrangements, and even wrote 3 draft versions of her talking points. "We're a family here at Lumilane," one of my drafts began. "We succeed together." The irony still makes me feel a little sick. The day of the party, our office looked like Pinterest had exploded. Fairy lights, white linens, gold accents everywhere. The event space we rented downtown had a huge glass wall overlooking the city. I arrived 3 hours early because of course I did. "Moan, you look like you haven't slept in a week," my coworker Daniel said, bumping my shoulder gently with his. "Wow, thanks," I laughed weakly, adjusting my black dress. "That's exactly what every woman wants to hear the moment she walks in," he grinned. "You know what I mean. Big night. You okay?" I hesitated, then shrugged. I don't know where I fit when she comes in. Richard said she'd rely on me, but she hasn't really talked to me. Not properly. She'd be stupid not to," Daniel said. "You basically are this place." I hoped he was right. By 7, the venue was packed. Employees, board members, clients, journalists. People milled around with glasses of champagne and tiny canapés, talking about how Lumilane was ready for the next era. I stood by the side of the stage, headset on, coordinating with the AV team and event staff. "Monica, she's here," someone whispered behind me. I turned and saw Victoria stepping through the entrance like she owned the air itself. A sleek navy dress, diamond earrings, perfect posture. Cameras flashed as the PR team swarmed her. She did a quick round of hugs and handshakes, then spotted me. "Monica," she said brightly, walking over. "This is beautiful. You did all this?" "Yes," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm glad you like it." "Oh, I don't like it," she leaned in conspiratorially. "I love it." Compliment or performance? Hard to say. After my speech, "I want you on stage with me for a minute," she added. "You've been here a long time. It'll look good." Symbolic continuity. "Of course," I said, warmth blooming in my chest. Maybe I'd been overthinking it. Maybe she did value me. For about 45 minutes I let myself feel proud. I watched people laugh, clink glasses, and pose for photos in front of the Lumilane logo I had redesigned last year. Then everything started to feel off. It was subtle at first. A board member I'd worked closely with, Sarah Collins, avoided my eyes when I waved. Another, James, gave me this tight, pitying smile. A cluster of managers looked at me, then quickly looked away. The air shifted. I caught Daniel near the dessert table. "Is it just me?" I murmured, grabbing a mini cheesecake. Or is everyone acting weird? He glanced around and lowered his voice. HR had a closed-door meeting this afternoon, he said. People are saying there's some kind of restructuring coming. My stomach dipped. Restructuring? I don't know anything else, he added quickly. But if there was bad news, they'd talk to you first, right? Right? The band stopped playing. The lights dimmed slightly. The AV guy signaled to me that it was time. Okay, everyone? The host called into the mic. Please welcome to the stage our new CEO, Victoria Harris. Applause, whistles. People turned to the stage, phones up, recording. I moved to the side, just off stage as planned. Victoria walked up, hugged the host, and took the mic, her smile dazzling. Thank you, she began, her voice smooth. Tonight isn't about me, it's about all of you. About our future. I relaxed a little. She launched into a speech I'd mostly written, honoring her father, talking about growth, innovation, collaboration. The usual. Then her tone shifted. But with every new chapter, she said, gaze sweeping the crowd, there are also hard decisions. The room got quieter. To move forward, we need to correct past mistakes. We need to hold people accountable, no matter how long they've been here. A cold prickle ran down my spine. What? I watched her expression carefully. There was something like satisfaction there. And that brings me, she continued, to a difficult announcement. My heart started hammering. She hadn't told me about any difficult announcement. She turned slightly, and for a second, her eyes met mine. I couldn't read them. Then she lifted her hand and pointed right at me. Monica Hill, she said clearly, into the microphone. You're fired. For a moment, the room went completely silent. I actually thought I'd misheard her. The words didn't fit together in my brain. Somewhere, a glass clinked against the floor. Then, people started whispering. She didn't stop. Monica has been found responsible for repeated breaches of trust and several serious lapses in judgment that have harmed this company's reputation. Effective immediately, she is no longer an employee of Lumilane. Breaches of trust? Lapses in judgment? She was still talking, saying something about standards and no one being above accountability, but the words blurred. My face was hot. My hands were shaking so badly that the headset slid off my ear. I saw Daniel taking a step forward and someone grabbing his arm. Sarah Collins' mouth was hanging open. Humiliation washed over me in a sickening wave. In front of my colleagues, in front of clients, in front of journalists. I felt exposed, like I was standing there in my underwear. Every flaw magnified. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. The bathroom was quiet, mercifully dim. I locked myself in a stall and pressed my back against the door, my breath coming in shallow bursts. She did not just do that. I whispered to myself, choking on the words. She did not just do that. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Messages, missed calls. I couldn't bring myself to look. Hot tears spilled over, and I let them, silent sobs shaking my shoulders. This wasn't just a job. This was my identity, my loyalty, my life, and in one scripted, public moment, she'd framed me as some kind of villain. Breaches of trust? Serious lapses? That's when the anger started to burn through the humiliation. Because if anyone here had been playing fast and loose with trust, it wasn't me. I wiped my eyes and forced myself to breathe slowly. Think, Monica? I wasn't completely blindsided. Not really. For weeks, I'd noticed things that didn't add up in the transition documents. Numbers that were rounded up for investor decks. Claims about campaign results that were generous at best, and all of it had Victoria's name on it. 3 days ago, I'd sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop, rereading an email she'd sent. Don't worry about the original numbers, just make sure the deck looks strong. That's how this game is played. I'd felt sick enough that I started a private folder on my personal drive. Screenshots, emails, old contracts. I didn't know exactly what I was doing then, just that it felt like insurance. I'd also kept copies of something Richard did right before he retired. He'd had me temporarily register Lumilane's new trademark and primary domain under my name as an expedient workaround while some legal mess got sorted. You're the only one I trust to hold this, he'd told me in his office. It's just paperwork. We'll transfer it back in a month. Then he got pneumonia. Then he retired earlier than planned. The transfer never happened. As of that morning, on paper, I still owned the Lumilane trademark and main domain, I hadn't thought it would matter. Now it felt like a loaded weapon I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The door creaked open and shut. Someone's heels clicked across the tiles, then stopped. Moan? Daniel's voice, soft. You in here? I swallowed and pushed the stall door open a crack. When he saw my face, his expression fell. Oh, Moan, he whispered. She humiliated me, I said, my voice trembling. In front of everyone. She called me untrustworthy. Me. She blindsided all of us, he said. HR didn't say a word. People are freaking out. Do they believe her? He hesitated. That hurt more than anything. I don't, he said quickly. But you know how it is. She's the CEO now. People don't want to be on the wrong side. I stepped out fully and went to the mirror. My mascara had smudged under my eyes. My lipstick was fading. I looked like the aftermath of a car crash. She thinks she can just rewrite the story, I said slowly, watching my own eyes sharpen. Make me the problem. Clean house. Look decisive. A beat of silence. Can she? He asked. I met his gaze in the mirror. Not if I tell the real story, I said. We slipped into a small side room off the hallway. One of those storage rooms they'd dressed up to look like a quiet lounge. No one was there. I took a deep breath and pulled my phone out. Okay, I said. I need you to listen, and I need you to be honest. If this blows up, I might not just be unemployed. I might be blacklisted in the entire industry. Monica, she already tried to destroy you, Daniel said. What else can she do? I smiled humorlessly. You'd be surprised. I told him everything quickly but clearly, the inflated numbers. The email where she directly told me to fake results. The way she'd altered a client case study to make it look like Lumilane had done more than we actually had. The legal mess with the trademark and domain that on paper I still held. Daniel's eyes got wider and wider. Are you serious? He breathed. You have proof of all this? I pulled up the folder on my phone, scrolling through screenshots and documents. Oh my God, he whispered. I didn't know what to do with it, I said. I thought maybe I'd need it if something went wrong later. I didn't think it'd go this wrong, this public. So what now? He asked. I stared at my phone, heart pounding. This was the moment. The fork in the road. I could walk away, find a new job, let her narrative stand. Monica, the untrustworthy one, the liability. Or I could risk everything and fight back. I thought of the 4 years of my life I'd poured into this place. The nights I'd stayed late making her father look good. The campaigns that had saved the company when we were wobbling. The interns I'd mentored. The colleagues who trusted me. I thought of Victoria's voice echoing through the speakers. You're fired. No, she wasn't going to end my story like that. I want the truth out, I said, my voice steadying. And I want it out tonight, before her version sets in. Daniel nodded slowly. Tell me what you need. The plan came together fast because we didn't have the luxury of time. Down the hall, the party was still roaring. Victoria was probably basking in her power, spinning more lines about integrity while I hid in a storage room like a ghost. We had maybe 40 minutes before people started leaving. 40 minutes before the press wrote their headlines. Before the board solidified their opinion. First, I said, fingers flying across my screen, I'm going to email the board. All of them. With everything. Okay. And I'm ceasing myself and forwarding it to my personal lawyer. Paper trail. Smart. I drafted the email, rewriting, tightening, subject urgent, documentation regarding misrepresentation and IP ownership. Dear board members, I was publicly terminated tonight for alleged breaches of trust. Before you accept that narrative, please review the attached documentation, screenshots, contracts, email threads, the proof that the Lumilane trademark and primary domain were registered. Still, in my name. When I hit send, my hands were shaking. But a strange calm washed over me. Second, I said, we need the AV team. Daniel blinked. You're going to do this. Here? Where else? I asked. Everyone who matters is in that room right now. He gave a short, disbelieving laugh. You are terrifying, only when provoked. We slipped backstage, moving like we were still only coordinating logistics. The AV guy, Mark, looked up as we approached. Hey, Monica, is everything okay? He asked, frowning. Actually, I said carefully, Victoria asked me to play a short video before the closing remarks. Last-minute edition. Can you plug my phone into the projector? He hesitated. I wasn't told about you know how last-minute CEOs can be, I said, injecting a weary, professional tone. She wants it to feel spontaneous. We can't exactly announce it. He shrugged. If she okayed it, sure. Just send me the file. Daniel cleared his throat. I'll go confirm with the floor manager, he lied smoothly, walking away to sell the illusion, while he distracted them. I quickly uploaded a prepared slideshow file I'd made in those shaky minutes. Simple white slides with black text and screenshots embedded. Not everything. Just enough. The last slide was a screenshot of the public IP registry page, clearly showing my name listed as owner of Lumelane's new trademark and primary domain. When it was queued up, I stepped back, heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the music. Ready whenever you give the signal, Mark said. Thanks, I managed. 10 minutes later, Victoria was back on stage. She looked even more radiant under the lights, glass in hand, smile gleaming. If I hadn't known what she'd just done to me, I might have admired her. I want to thank you all again for being here, she said. Lumelane's future has never been brighter. Tonight marks the beginning of something incredible. People clapped and cheered. She raised her glass, and I want to talk about 3 words that matter more than anything: trust, truth, and transparency now, I whispered. Mark hit play. The music cut abruptly. The giant screen behind her flickered, her sleek promotional graphic disappearing. The first slide appeared. Before you decide who you trust, know the whole story, the room murmured. Victoria turned slowly, confusion knitting her brow. What is this? She said, her voice still picked up by the mic. The second slide popped up, a screenshot of her email to me. Don't worry about the original numbers, just make sure the deck looks strong. That's how this game is played. Gasps, actual, audible gasps. The third slide, a before and after of the original client results versus the inflated stats in her investor deck. The fourth slide, a short transcript snippet. If the numbers look good, no one cares how we got there. Her words, time-stamped. Company email. Stop this, she snapped suddenly, turning toward the AV booth. Her polished facade cracked, panic bleeding through. I stepped out from the side of the stage. Then, why? I asked, loud enough that the mic caught it. Don't you believe in transparency? Every head swiveled toward me. If humiliation had been a knife when she fired me, this moment was surgical, controlled. Monica, leave the stage, she said through gritted teeth, her smile frozen for the crowd. I'll leave, I said calmly. After they see the last slide, the final slide came up. It was the public registration page. Trademark owner, Lumelane. Registered to Monica Hill. Silence swallowed the room. Some of you may not know, I said, addressing the crowd now, my voice surprisingly steady, that before Richard retired, he asked me to temporarily register the new brand and domains under my name while legal issues with a previous owner were resolved. That transfer was never completed. I turned to face her fully. So right now, on paper, I own the name you're standing under and the primary domain you've been promising to investors. A board member near the front stood up slowly. Sarah, is this true? She asked, looking between us. Victoria's face was pale. This is irrelevant, and she is a disgruntled former employee. It's extremely relevant, Sarah cut in, her voice sharp. You fired her in front of everyone for alleged breaches of trust. 15 minutes later, we receive an email from her with documented evidence of your own. All eyes swung to Victoria, and Sarah added, we can verify this trademark registration in 30 seconds. The room exploded into murmurs again. This time like a wave crashing in my direction instead of away from me. The next hour was chaos. Reporters clustered near the back, some already typing furiously. Board members huddled, phones out, checking records. A couple of senior managers approached me quietly, asking if I was okay, if I needed a lawyer. Victoria tried to regain control, insisting there had been misunderstandings, that I was exaggerating, but it was too late. The illusion was broken. Within 20 minutes, the board called an emergency closed-door meeting in one of the side conference rooms. They asked me to come. Victoria tried to object. She has no official standing here, actually, Sarah said, as the registered owner of our primary brand assets. She absolutely does. The conference room felt suddenly very small. I sat at one end of a long table, a glass of water trembling slightly in my hand. Victoria sat opposite me, her lawyer on one side, James on the other. The rest of the board clustered around. Monica, Sarah began, voice measured. We've reviewed your email and some of the supporting documents. We will, of course, need a full audit. But at first glance, your concerns are serious. I nodded, trying to stay composed. I didn't go looking for dirt, I said. I just couldn't ignore it when I saw numbers being changed and claims being made that weren't true. And I certainly didn't expect to be fired publicly for breaches of trust right after raising concerns privately to HR last week. That part was true too. I'd flagged a couple of red flag emails to our. They'd promised to look into it. Those concerns never reached the board, Sarah said, eyes narrowing. Because she is lying, Victoria snapped. She's bitter because she wasn't promoted. I never asked for a promotion. I cut in quietly. I asked for honesty. Silence. Sarah turned to Victoria. Did you instruct staff to alter performance metrics in investor materials? I used optimistic projections, like every other CEO, Victoria said quickly. This is being blown out of proportion. And the IP registration? She's exploiting a clerical oversight, Victoria said. My father clearly intended all Lumilane IP to belong to the company. This is extortion. Every accusation landed like a slap. I took a breath. I'm not here to extort anyone, I said. I'm here because tonight I was publicly called untrustworthy in front of my colleagues and the press. I've given years of my life to this company. I have never stolen, lied, or cheated for it. I can't say the same for what I've seen in the last few weeks. I let that hang. Here's what I want, I continued, before anyone could twist it. First, a public correction of the record. I won't accept being labeled as some kind of saboteur. Second, a fair severance package and all benefits owed. Third, a formal statement that I raise concerns about misrepresentation and that they are being investigated. I paused, then added, and finally, I'm willing to transfer full ownership of the trademark and domain back to Lumilane for a reasonable buyout and on the condition that this company commits, in writing, to transparent reporting going forward. Whoever leads it next. Victoria's head snapped toward me. You are blackmailing us, she hissed. No, Sarah said slowly, a hint of admiration in her eyes. She's negotiating. And given the leverage she holds and the documentation she's provided, it's a very restrained negotiation. They deliberated without us for what felt like an eternity, but was really only about 20 minutes. I sat in the hallway outside the conference room, hands clasped so tight my knuckles hurt. Daniel found me and sat beside me, not saying anything, just letting his shoulder rest lightly against mine. Whatever happens, he said eventually, I'm proud of you. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm terrified. Good, he replied. Means you're doing something that matters. When the door opened, Sarah stepped out first. Monica, she said, we'd like to speak with you again. Back inside. The atmosphere had shifted. Victoria's lawyer looked pissed. Victoria looked smaller somehow, less untouchable. Miss Hill, James said formally, the board has agreed to your terms in principle. The specifics of the severance and buyout will be handled by legal, but you will receive documentation by tomorrow morning confirming what we discussed. Relief hit me so hard my knees went weak. As for tonight, Sarah added, we will make a brief announcement before the end of the event clarifying that your termination was premature and is being reviewed. We will state that you raised compliance concerns in good faith. Thank you, I said softly, and she continued, effective immediately. Victoria Harris is being placed on temporary suspension pending a full investigation into these matters. My eyes flicked to Victoria. Her face was a frozen mask of outrage and disbelief. You can't do this, she said. This is my father's company. It's Lumilane's company, Sarah said coolly. Not yours, not Monica's. And we owe it to everyone who works here to make sure it's led with integrity. For the first time that night, I felt something like justice. Not perfect, not clean, but real. Later, when most of the guests had left and the staff were quietly dismantling the decorations, I walked back onto the stage where it had all started. The lights were softer now. The room echoed with the clatter of glassware and distant laughter. Daniel hopped up beside me. So, he said, how does it feel to blow up your entire life in one night? I laughed, the sound a little wild. Honestly, it feels weirdly good. He nudged me. You know they're going to spin this story 100 different ways tomorrow. I know, I said. But I did what I could to make sure my version gets heard too. We stood there for a moment, looking out at the emptying room. Are you going to miss this place? He asked. Yes, I admitted. But I think I'm going to build something of my own. Something that doesn't require me to lie to feel successful. He smiled. When you do, call me. I might be ready to jump ship. I smirked. Careful. I might hold you to that. From across the room, I saw Sarah watching us, then giving me a small, respectful nod before heading out. I wasn't the girl crying in the bathroom anymore. I was the woman who refused to let someone else write her story. On my way out, I passed Victoria in the hallway. She was on the phone, voice low and furious, but when she saw me, she hung up. Happy? She spat. You've embarrassed me in front of the entire board, the press, everyone. You'll never work in this city again. I looked at her for a long moment. I didn't do this to embarrass you, I said quietly. I did this to stop you from stepping on people like me to make yourself look powerful. You fired me like I was a prop, a lesson. You turned my life into content for your strong leader image. I stepped closer. But here's the thing, Victoria, I said. I'm not your prop. I'm the one who kept this place standing when you were still polishing your resume. You should have thought of that before you tried to erase me. Her jaw clenched. This isn't over, she hissed. No, I agreed. It's just not going to end the way you thought. I walked away before she could reply. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The echoes of the evening replaying in my mind, every word, every gasp, every slide on that screen. I was unemployed. My future was uncertain. Tomorrow, there would be calls, legal paperwork, maybe even gossip articles, but I'd protected my name. I'd taken back my narrative. I'd turned humiliation into leverage, and leverage into justice, for the first time in weeks. I slept, and when I woke up, there was an email from Sarah. A draft of the public statement attached at the bottom. She'd added a single line. Regardless of where you go next, Monica, I hope you keep fighting for the truth the way you did tonight. I smiled. Maybe my story at Lumilane was over, but my story wasn't. If you were in my place, what would you have done when she fired you in front of everyone? Would you have walked away quietly or fought back like I did? Let me know in the comments, and tell me whose side you're on, and if you want more stories of karma, betrayal, and revenge turning the tables. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter.